Hi there everyone, welcome back to yet another video from Camille's Harem looking at the upcoming anime for fall 2023. I have some need for weeb.
Woohoo! Alright, let's talk about some returning anime first.
Yeah. So, one that I've been really looking forward to, and I really have been, so much so that I did 3 videos recently on it, Spy Family. This is going to be so much fun.
Spy Family's always fun.
It is. And one of the reasons why I am so excited for this particular season is that for a lot of the people who were complaining that Yor was like the weak link in the Forger family as far as like character development goes, this season should have an arc that like focuses really on her, that takes us deep into her world as an assassin. It is so good. It's one of the most insane arcs in the manga as far as it's right now been written, and it's so good.
I'm excited for that too. I'm excited for that one too. Spy Family's always been a fun one ever since I found the manga originally. Really excited to see where it's gonna go from here.
It's one of those stories where it's like, as far as the manga goes, I just wish we got way more regular updates, because it doesn't even update every 2 weeks. Sometimes the mangaka goes on hiatus, so it's just like, ugh. And that's one of the things that I'm interested in seeing what the season actually does in terms of the pacing. If the anime studio has taken that into account, because if they go at the same speed as they did for season 1, they will have gotten up within 2 arcs of where the manga currently is.
Okay.
And so, like, that means that season 3 would brush up right with where the manga is. And we all know what it's like when you have anime only, or anime original content going on in. You really have to trust the studio to get it right.
Well,
which
and you really hope that they're actually
may or may not
with
happen.
the author.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want a Game of Thrones situation happening here, or Bleach.
Or Bleach, or Full Metal Alchemist versus Brotherhood, where it's like Full Metal Alchemist goes in one direction and Brotherhood goes in the other.
Right.
Oh boy.
So that'll be fun. Let's see. We also have Shield Hero Season 3, which will be interesting.
I need to catch up with Shield Hero. I really enjoyed the first season, but for whatever, I don't even recall why I didn't get around to watching the second season. I just never did. And so I am really behind on Shield Hero.
Yeah, I read a whole bunch of the light novels a while back, and I think this is about to the point where I stopped reading, and there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. That lot of like time travel shenanigans and world hopping, and like they tease stuff up to that point in the show and whatnot, but it's going to be really heavy into that kind of field coming here soon.
I'm just going to say, I'm someone who I do enjoy time travel and I do enjoy world hopping. I enjoy when you bring both of them together. I don't think that it's as bad as some people say, for instance, like with the MCU, where they're like, oh no, with so many multiple dimensions, it's now just like a cop-out. You can be as lazy as you want to be, which yes, there is the temptation to be that, which could happen to Shield Hero down the road. But I think that when you like open up that Pandora's box of possibility, if you stick to the story and you get creative, then it's just an excuse to get even cooler as it goes along.
Yeah,
but it takes restraint and dedication.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where the story goes from here on. I just know that they end up, well, I'm not gonna get into spoilers too much, but I know they end up talking with other heroes from other dimensions and possible timelines and whatnot. Alright, let's move on to Goblin Slayer.
Ah, yes. I am so excited for Goblin Slayer. And not just because of all the delicious controversy that's going to kick up again. I've gotten into it after the first season, and there's just a lot of really fun stories. Some demented stuff still, yes, but there's some really fun stories still for Goblin Slayer to tell, and I'm really looking forward to some of these adventures coming up in season 2.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's not one I've looked much into, though I'm tempted to get into it now that it's got more anime to it, so it might be more interesting. Sit down and watch that.
Say, my recommendation to anyone who wants to get into it and who feels a little squeamish is this: you can skip episode 1.
Okay.
Like you really can, because episode 1 is the one that was like the super traumatizing, and it exists to set the stage for like, these are the consequences. Goblins will devour you. Goblins will sexually assault in all kinds of ways. Women, horrible stuff happens if you screw up, and all it takes is one screw up and you're going to die in this world unless someone is watching your back. The first episode is there to really cement that to the audience, and from that point on it plays out throughout the rest of the story, just not as graphic. And I think that's something to bear in mind for people who are feeling squeamish about watching Goblin Slayer. You can skip the first episode and the rest of the journey is pretty fun. It is dark, so I wouldn't recommend it to kids. Not at all, but...
And then we've got the Eminence in Shadow, which, after seeing bits and pieces in different, like, AMVs and different little clips I've seen, I'm more interested in this one, especially because the fight scenes look just super fun. Even though I like it when they handle, like, edginess with sincerity, they don't in this one, but they do it well enough that it's, like, it's funny. Like, I enjoy it.
I couldn't get into Eminence and Shadow, and one of the things that kind of solidified that for me was that Nux Taku got, like had a rant about it, where he was praising it, but it was just like, it was so tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, that tells me basically everything I need to know. I've read the opening chapters of the manga, and when Nux gives it like his A-OK with like a wink and a nod, rather than like sincerely, that's when you know it's like, yeah. If I do end up watching anything of Eminence and Shadow, it's probably going to be the AMVs and whatever commentary people have on it.
That's fair. And then we've got another one, which I really enjoyed the first season and the manga and whatnot, is Faraway Paladin. I really enjoyed that one. I'm looking forward to the second season of that one.
Yeah. Okay, this is going to be interesting. I need to double check about the pacing and everything. I think that Faraway Paladin season 2 is going to catch us up with the manga.
Ooh.
And so if I'm correct in that should then mean that by the end of the season, we're going to get a really, really awesome fight. That's really awesome in the manga. But I'd have to double check about the pacing. I am looking forward to this one, and I still need to one day do a comparison of Faraway Paladin versus Jobless Reincarnation, because the premise is the same for both stories, but they do it so entirely differently. And there's an argument for why they're both really good, or why one might be better than the other, that I think would be really interesting to get into. But that's a topic for another video.
All right, let's move on to our new anime of the season, which I'm excited about. I mean, the fall season usually ends up having some like major heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming with this season. I've seen several of the like really popular anime YouTubers talk about some of these. Sousou no Frieren. I've heard like Giga actually do a full-on video of this like a year ago before I even knew.
Oh, that's right. He did do that one. Yeah, I've also So do you say Frieren? Is that how it would be pronounced in Japanese?
What I assume. Well, yeah, that's how close enough to how they'd say it in Japanese.
Okay,
but you were go ahead.
Because I read that as Frieren, and Frieren in German is to freeze, which I sent a message to you about whether or not like that's a play on words from the mangaka, because the character is referred to as a cold-hearted elf.
Right.
It's like, oh, that kind of fits, but I don't know if that's the case or not for this particular story.
There's a good chance it is. All right, let's get started on our list, and we'll get more into depth on those when we get into it. Let's start with my least favorite manga that I read, because I read this a while back and I couldn't stand it then, and I couldn't stand it now. Pissed me off.
Cut loose, Scott. Tell everyone about I Shall Survive Using Potions. Why does this suck?
So it's your classic isekai. Love it or hate it, it's your classic isekai. The same basic setup. Somebody dies, ends up giving cheat abilities by a god or goddess, and then from there ends up changing the world that they're like shoved into, which is a fantasy world. Mm-hmm. And then you end up with, excuse my language, but you end up with this absolute bitch of a character who has no respect for anybody but herself. She outright bullies the goddess that she meets right at the beginning, as well as like almost everybody that she meets.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that character would have been so much better if there was more thought put into a bunch of the supporting cast. But with her
Yes.
having that strong of a character and nobody else having any sort of like redeemable character building, it's overbearing. There's so much of her character, but nothing else in the story.
Yeah, I think a good way of equating this to another story would be like thinking of Konosuba. This would be like Konosuba with just Kazuma. There's
Yes.
none of the other characters to push back against him, to either be comic relief or to challenge him or to annoy him.
Right.
As such, Kazuma without any of those characters would just be an awful idiot.
Yeah.
And that's what you get with this story.
There's none of like the strong characters that this character can bounce off of that can like either tone down or affect like their views. You can see it, especially the longer you end up reading, because she ends up becoming this whole like advice guru and everything she says is gold. And it just sounds like very idealistic and opinionated to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even getting into the whole like cheat power system. I love the idea of a fantasy story based around potions. Like having something you have to physically create, gather the ingredients for, and make stuff. And like if you've got like supernatural knowledge and expertise on how to make this kind of stuff, that's awesome. That would be a cool story to me. This where she just magically has it appear in her hands. There's no point to that. There's nothing you can do to build the story with that. It's just a cheat ability that allows her to cheat through everything. That's it.
And it's a boring and exhausting trope. Cheat abilities, like it's a staple of power fantasy at this point, and it's a bad one too. It's a bad trope. If you do give a character an overwhelming ability, there needs to be something that they either can't do because of that ability, or they cause a whole lot of problems with that ability and it requires them to actually learn how to properly use it. Something like that, but we don't get any of this in this story. It is pure power fantasy.
Let's move on, because this one's got me just riled up and I need something to tone me down. Let's move on to Shy.
Shy. I came across Shy a little while back. I had no idea what was up with the story. Like, I only saw snippets of way later on. Of course, then I've got no idea of what's happening right here, and I was just like, I looked at this and I was like, what is this My Hero Academia knockoff? So I didn't bother giving it a try. This is why you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Because starting with the first chapters of the manga, holy cow, I love this. I love this idea of a world where there are superheroes, but there's very limited superheroes. I love the camaraderie between them as well. Like, this is like, it was surprisingly wholesome, and the personal journey that Shy herself goes on is just fantastic. Like, I love it. There's so much positivity in this story that is balanced with action, with some fantastic world building and other stuff as well. Like, this is a very balanced hero story.
I really appreciate it because it ends up adopting a lot of the great stuff that you see in more like magical girl anime and adopts it into like a superhero setting. And I was really impressed by how well like this did. Like the whole bad guy and like affecting the hearts of people and crystallizing into bad stuff. Like that sounds like a stereotypical magical girl villain, but putting it in like a superhero story like this, especially when you've got a flawed superhero that's still trying to figure out how to do like the stuff she needs to do, it's perfect. It works so well. And I love the characters, like even some of the side characters, like,
yeah.
And it's anime. The like first little villain ends up becoming like Shy's best friend, and I'm like, I love that. That's cute.
It works so well. And I like, there's a little detail, I mean, this is somewhat of a spoiler, but whatever. There's one little detail about how there's like, for one of the characters, their brother really likes Shy. I like how that's actually kind of an introduction to to getting to know Shy a little bit better, and also one of the developing relationships is that you have this boy who's like, whereas everyone else is like, yeah, Shy, she's an anxious superhero. Can you please speak up, girl? She's not very flashy. Look at Russia and America's superheroes. They're awesome. But you got this one little boy who's just like, she's awesome. I don't know what it really was. Like, it's hard to put my finger on what it was about that one little boy character, but the fact that he shows up twice to kind of like provide like just that little extra push for Shy because she does have someone rooting in her corner. That little extra push of positivity is what puts her on the path towards developing one of the core relationships in the story. So, like, again, this is just, there's so much goodness in this, and I've only read the first 5 chapters. I can't wait to see what else comes.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. All right, let's move on to our next one. Konyaku Haki sareta reijo wa hirota ore ga ikenai koto o oshiekomu, which roughly translates to, I who picked up the unbetrothed, like, villainess will teach her the forbidden things, basically. They're just gonna have a better English name than that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But this one's very kind of slice of life and fun, at least in my mind.
This is a slice of life story. This is, the entire title is there to mislead you.
Yes.
If you're and they're being all like, oh, there's going to be some ecchi fun because he's going to teach her, and we all know what that means. It's like, yeah, no, you're not going to get any of that.
I got police teacher vibes when you said teacher, and I'm like, oh no, this could go.
Oh no. Let's please not go there.
Okay.
Let's hear. My note for this one was this. There are 2 times in my life that I would have eaten up the story because there's something about it that really appeals to me with the characters that are betrayed. There's a certain sense of angst that is healed by them doing these slice of life things. And there's a part of me that when I was younger and also going through some stages in my life where I felt betrayed, and then suddenly like, oh, there's someone who comes into my life and they help bring back in the light and everything gets healed and better. This manga would have definitely appealed to me at that time. But since I'm not in that stage of life, or I'm not in that particular journey right now, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, the cringe! The cringe! So that's my take on this particular manga.
Yeah. I feel like even though it set up some like drama that could show up later on, I'm not sure how far along that'll get because it focuses so much on the slice of life aspect that I'm not sure that you'll get any of like the underlying drama that set up everything. I feel like that would be a mistake if they didn't include anything that. And I don't know, I didn't read that far into it, so maybe there is. But if you want a good example of a manga that does do something similar to this, there's one called My Lady Just Wants to Relax. Love that manga because like very slice of life. It is a little furry. I have to admit, but like the story is wonderful and it's super cute. But like you also have like a lot of underlying tension that's going on that all of the characters are wrapped into, and it does a really good job of like handling all of that.
Yeah, so there are options. If you don't like this, there are other options in this particular vein that will scratch that itch.
Right.
Moving on to one that absolutely shocked me, because I'll admit when I saw the teaser trailer for this, I was like, giving me a Birdman. Okay, the animation looks gorgeous, but you're giving me a half-naked Birdman.
Right.
No explanation. And Shangri La Frontier. This story right here is the cure to Sword Art Online.
Yes.
Take it away, Scott, because you actually know more about this than I do. I think you actually have more to say.
So this was one that I found just earlier this year and then just downed it. Like I just kept reading the manga. Like it's updated almost to like 200 chapters by now. And I loved every minute of it. I'm trying to figure out Studio C2C.
We're almost up to 150 chapters.
Yeah.
Right now.
But like I'm excited about the action in this. All of the fights in the manga are done so well. But I think this manga like succeeds. It has the fix that I Shall Survive Using Potions has. Cuz like it has the same kind of like linear progression that you expect from something based in a video game. And that's what SAO had. Like, you always had that linear progression, always trying to get stronger. But this one, it's fixed to, like, I Shall Survive Using Potions, is you have a lot of strong characters that like bounce off of each other and affect everything that's going on. And
Mhm.
it's kind of fun because they're all assholes and they're all just being assholes to each other, and it's funny.
Yep.
But it works.
And one thing that I like is that even though you have a very strong protagonist, I love that we get to see him struggle.
Yes.
Genuinely struggle. Like, he comes in, he's all like, I'm in this video game that's considered trash. You know how many trash video games I have wrecked? I'm gonna wreck this game, and then the game proceeds to wreck him. And I'm just like, and I'm like, that is what I wanted to see. It's like someone, it's like someone who's done like hundreds of hours of gaming, and then pulls up like Dark Souls, and is like, you can beat Dark Souls. And then Dark Souls proceeds to just be like, nope. It's kind of the impression that I got while reading this. And I was like, I appreciate that. I especially appreciate that as someone who's had my keister kicked by the Dark Souls genre. I can sympathize.
And I love how you get the sci-fi aspect of it, you get the fantasy aspect of it, like put together, having like a video game setting like that, it can be super fun. I'm looking at like Bullfoodie, which wonderful show, very very just kind of like easygoing and fun. This one's going to be a little bit more serious, but you get
way more serious than Beaufourie.
Right.
But you do bring up something. I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but I think that this does kind of add some flavor. Is that the devs for the game, the developers are keeping an eye on what's happening, and so when I saw that when reading the manga, I was all like, okay. I was like, what are you trying to like do with this, because of how it's all drawn all dark and sinister? And then when you meet one of the monsters that the devs have created, I was like, oh, this now makes way more sense. Okay, I'm liking where this is going.
Like, since I've read almost to the end, it's been a few months since I caught up with it, but like I've seen at least 3 of those monsters so far, and each one has like a very in-depth like storyline to them, and like it's actually very beautiful how everything goes. And then you've got a bunch of assholes that come in and just wreck everything that the devs had it planned, and that's what makes the story fun.
Yep.
But I like how, even though the character is very strong, he's not overpowered. Like, what gives him the advantage is his familiar with like playing different video games and be able to handling his body in a virtual environment. And like, it works. It's really fun to see that. But like, the character interactions are what I'm there for.
Yeah, a story lives or dies by its characters.
Yes. And this is a very, like, even though you've got that underlying like video game progression, it lives because of the character interactions. All right, let's move on to our next one. Finally, a fantasy that's not an isekai.
Yeah. I just wish it were slightly better, but we'll get into that.
It goes off the rails real quick. Like, right at the start, I was excited, and then it just like, what happened?
When I saw that this was on the list, because I had read this previously, I was just like, oh, we'll reread it again just to see if it's any... Nope, it doesn't get any better.
So we're talking about an anime that's coming out called Ragna Crimson.
Yeah, Ragna Crimson. Okay, the only... This is a story that I feel loses its plot really quickly, so I'll give you its plot right here. Got a guy who was sworn to kill all the dragons, because dragons are doing all kinds of insane shenanigans. When I say insane shenanigans, I am talking like go into the weirdest, darkest depths of manga and anime, and that's what you're going to get out of some of these dragons. It is bizarre what these dragons are doing. So it makes actually sense why this guy wants to kill them. And he shoots off on his own because the girl that he teamed up with, who he saw as the hero, he realizes, she's not as strong as I can be. Must protect the hero by slaying all the dragons. And then he teams up with one of those dragons to go and kill the other dragons. Yeah, that's it. Anything I can say beyond this point is just utter baloney. Right. And I've read so far into this.
I think it'll be fun to like watch this one, but I don't know if I'm actually going to invest much time into this.
This is one where the anime could redeem the story of the manga. Could. Depending on how much they try to rein in the insanity and make sense of it. Like, you don't have to remove chapters or anything like that. You just have to help the audience understand what the heck is going on half the time. You just do that little bit, and then it makes sense, or it might make sense.
Yep.
I don't know.
All right, let's move on to an even more unhinged one called Kingdoms of Ruin.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I wasn't ready for this one. I was not.
I
didn't
think
know what I was getting into.
I think I will watch. I think I will watch this one just so that way, like, because every now and then you just feel like a glutton for punishment and you need to be depressed. I think this is one I will watch when I want to be depressed.
This one takes edginess to like a new level that it shouldn't.
Yes, it does, and yet at the same time, it's like two trains crashing.
Yes,
you can't look away because it's so incredible. And here's the thing: it's actually not a bad premise. It's all in the execution where it gets weird.
Yep.
So the plot of the story is, I actually really do like this. That God created humans and witches, and and witches are supposed to coexist with humans and help humans to grow through the blessings of their magic. And humans, as we come to find out, can actually do a lot for the witches in not only just giving them that purpose, but giving them love and companionship. It's meant to be a very strong symbiotic relationship. However, humanity, through the progress of science, felt like they could supersede the witches, that they could break this symbiotic relationship for even more power. So the humans commit genocide against the witches, and you have one of the last witches and her human apprentice going up against the great empire of what have you. And so, like, that premise right there is really cool until until things start happening, until the main character starts going the way of angsty Kirito, and oh my gosh. Oh, it's so much. So many characters die for no reason.
Right?
And the manga, like, builds them up to be something awesome, and then they just die. And you're just like,
right?
Oh, okay. Do not get attached to anyone in this story.
No, not even close. Oh, man. And, like, it kept going and, like, getting worse. And it's like, oh, suddenly the main character is going to have some allies. Nope, not anymore.
Oh.
By his own hand. I just hit my elbow.
I know, it's so, yeah, like I said, this will be one that if I watch it because I want to feel depressed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. We've got Undead Unluck, which honestly I think is going to be one of our bigger series this season. It's one I've definitely heard about and like seen like the popularity of at the bookstore, like doing well. I think this one's fun. It's absolutely insane,
yes,
but it's purposely that way.
Here's the thing, this kind of like, it's weird because we've already got, like, for instance, Ragna Crimson versus Undead Unluck. Both are absolutely unhinged and insane. Undead Unluck makes sense as opposed to Ragna Crimson because of the characters. Our two main characters, Fuka and Andy, great chemistry.
Yep.
Oh boy, there's going to be people here in America who are really going to be complaining about that first episode, especially if they keep in all the groping.
Oh no.
Because it's so over the top. But here's the thing, is that the characters actually have great chemistry. There is a reason for the groping, as weird as that sounds. and it leads, especially later on in the manga, it leads to actually some really great things. Like a development of a really great relationship that takes you into this insane world. And the insane world works because you are grounded in the relationship.
I don't really have much more to say. You just end up having these like two characters that have these like weird superpowers that they can't explain. One causes some serious misfortune if anybody touches her, and the other one just can't die, like more so than Deadpool kind of regeneration.
Yeah, Deadpool's got nothing on Andy.
Deadpool's got nothing on this guy. And their interactions and the interactions with the people trying to capture him. It's fun. It's insane. There's some crazy stuff going on. You never know what kind of misfortune's gonna fall all of them.
Oh yeah.
But
I love Fuka's misfortunes. Like all of the crazy things that are brought about. I actually in the manga, so there was the original one shot chapter, and then
Yeah.
there was then what was actually serialized. One, I don't know if they will do it, but I hope that they actually use the one shot chapters version for the first episode, because it's
Right.
basically the same story, except that they make the villain way more sinister in the one
Right.
shot, and the variety of unluck is
Right.
hilarious in the one shot.
It's also good.
So I hope that they use that. We'll see what happens.
Right. All right, let's move on. This is one I've been following for a few years now because I love this one. So it's called Apothecary Diaries, and just so good. Like if you like a good mystery story with like a lot of different mysteries as you've got like other stuff going on in the background, this is it. It's more of a historical fiction. I feel like it fits somewhere in like China or Korea, somewhere where they've got like an emperor and the emperor has like a full-on harem and like situations going on like inside of the harem. And then you've got our main character who is this little like apothecary apprentice inside of a red light district that gets abducted and sold into the harem and ends up getting pulled all sorts of directions once she's in there.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was not able to access the manga for this one. I had to go. I had to dive into the light novel for information. I don't know why. Every link didn't work for me.
Huh.
So all I can say is like I am excited for this particular take
Mm-hmm.
on a story of political intrigue,
Yeah.
because I've come across a variety of like different harem stories, and not just actually ones out of Japan either, but actually like historical ones. There are some incredible stories of like the palace intrigue, and not even actually so much like the sex. Like people think, oh, harem, ooh, sexy times. Like no, it's actually like the wit of the women, the relationships that they cultivate, the influence they can have on economics. Those are like the big things. In this case, we're zooming in on a girl who her knowledge, her know-how
Mm-hmm.
is apothecary stuff. And it's something that doesn't seem immediately applicable, but she's able to use it in her own way. And plus she's got her own unique
Yeah.
personality, which makes her a strong individual within the story.
Until she gets her hands on some poison and tries to eat it, and everybody has to try and stop her, which I
Well,
love.
and that's what makes her a unique character.
Yeah. Like I don't know how many times and I'm still reading this one. I'm still trying to catch up to the end. But I don't know how many times where she gets a hold of some poison and she's like, "Maybe I'll eat this." And then like the people around her is like, "Don't you dare." And it's funny. Just every time it's funny.
And this looks gorgeously animated.
Mhm.
Like when you first showed me the teaser trailer for this,
Yeah.
I thought you were showing me a movie, because the production quality is just gorgeous. There's no other word for this. Like if anything, people should watch this just for the art.
Yeah.
But I guarantee.
This might be. So it's done by the same studio that helped with like Summertime Render and Komi-san, a bunch of the Pokemon movies. So that's
Oh,
that's why it's so good.
man,
That's
someone give these
exciting.
people a raise.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But I'm super excited about this one. The characters are all super fun. And just a warning, like they never really go into depth on it, but there is talk about like sex and whatnot. Just I mean it's in a harem. You're gonna have that kind of stuff. Like
Mhm.
the main character grew up in a red light district. You're gonna have that kind of stuff, but it's never like in your face kind of setting.
And you see, and that's something that I find very tasteful. Like you can easily tie sexual elements into a story where appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
without becoming gratuitous.
Right.
And this goes for fans and for authors. If you spend way too much time on the sex, then really it's like cotton candy.
Yeah.
Cotton candy is delicious. If there's too much of it, you just get sick and you're actually not even full. And so tastefully, realistically applying those kinds of elements to a story. And the same goes for other elements as well, such as like murder. If you just have like a slaughter fest of a story, it just becomes hollow after a while. It's not just sexual elements within a story. It's really any sort of mature element. Know how to use it well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like Apothecary Diaries is a story that does that.
All right, let's move on to our next one, which is another one that I think is going to be very popular, because this is the one we were talking about earlier with like Giga actually doing a video of it not too long ago. And it's called Sousou no Frieren, or the the English name will probably be Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and I know I'm butchering that name according to the German pronunciation. I'm sorry, Lars.
Oh, that's totally fine. Say this is one where, like I said, I don't know if they was intentional to use a German word, so I'm not going to be a stickler about its pronunciation because I don't know. But oh my gosh, this is a story. So this was a story that you've been praising it before.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, don't judge a book by its cover. I looked on the front, I'm like, oh, you got this cute little elf. And I was like, this story looks very melancholy. I don't know if I'm feeling in the mood for a melancholy story. It is a story with plenty of melancholy, but oh my gosh, catharsis is unbelievable. And I was ready to tear into this thing after 2 chapters. I was like, you can't just throw us into the end of the story and then tell us that there's more afterwards without giving us a chance to understand who these characters are. Yep. I've seen plenty of other manga try that out. All of them have failed. Sousou no Frieren succeeds. Oh my gosh, does it succeed. It pulls you into the lives of these characters. Mm-hmm. And wow. Just wow. Scott, you say something because I'm losing words. I'm in awe.
I think where it succeeds there is it knows who its main character is in this case. You've got the stuff talking at the start of the story with like the hero and his like traveling group going to just kill the Demon King and whatnot. But it's not dumping all of that information. It's just like, oh, you've got this goofy group of adventurers, like, going around and solving problems. But the main character is, like, the small, petite elf with, like, the cold expressions. And it's her story that you're following. And you realize that it takes her longer to get some things, especially, like, emotionally, socially, than, like, the other characters. And so, even if it takes her 100 years to experience something, it's still gonna happen. And like you actually get to see that progression through the story.
I'm going to give a point of comparison right here, because this is something that I'm not sure if there's any other fantasy fans like me who have been in this kind of situation, but it was very jarring for me to start reading stories that really emphasized the fact that there's this such a difference in terms of lifespan for humans and elves, and that this idea of just like humans pass in the blink of an eye for an elf, and so why should the elf care? And that was something that was really weird to me because I've consumed the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. I have read so much about the lives of his elves, and if you really dive deep into it, you realize that the elves in Tolkien's world treat the humans with far more respect. They remember the lives of the humans that they've interacted with. They understand how fleeting their lives are in comparison to their own, but because the humans are just so different from them in that regard, the elves really try to respect that and understand that. It's actually a constant thing throughout the works of Tolkien, that the elves remember, the elves remember, the elves remember. They know humanity, they know the lives of these individual people. So then going to Sousou no Frieren, where Frieren is learning too late, it's too late, learning to appreciate the lives of the friends that she had. Now moving forward after that great adventure that they spent together. 10 years, the blink of an eye for an elf. And then coming back to realize just how precious those 10 years were. Mm-hmm. And that there was, and that there's a lifetime of experience and memories and happiness in those 10 years that she's now trying to unpack as she goes on her adventures is monumental. That's what I mean about the catharsis, because you get to relive those moments through her and in such precious and personal ways. Yeah. It's so good.
And I love how the story progresses, because like you never lose that. That's in there the entire stretch of the manga. They start adding in other characters, and you start realizing a new adventure is happening, and stuff just keeps like continuing to move further and like faster as the story goes, and it takes its time building up that speed, but it properly does it, and it's beautiful to see. I actually really like stories that do that. I mean, stories that like are just in your face from the front, like they're gonna catch your attention right off the bat. But if you're willing to stick it through like the slow, like steady buildup of the story till you know enough that you need to like really wow your readers, it works really well. And this is a story that does that.
Absolutely. This is, for me, a must-watch on our
Yes.
list. This is an absolute...
All
One
right.
that is not a must-watch for me is Under Ninja. This
I was expecting
frustrates me.
something so different from the intro to this one, and then I just didn't get it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I understand the comedy for this. I really do. That you have this elite underground nation of ninjas who are like holding themselves up to some like mythical status, everything, and then when you actually get to meet them, they're awful people who actually suck.
Yep.
What they're doing. Like, I get the joke. The problem is that it overstays its welcome so fast.
Yep.
And it becomes unenjoyable so fast. So like, I feel like this is one where it's all like, if you're a big fan of Family Guy, think Under Ninja is right for you. If you really love Family Guy, you will love Under Ninja.
I can see that.
If you're not a fan of Family Guy, I don't think Under Ninja will mix well with you.
Yeah, I don't know how much like we really need to put into this one. Let's move on
Here's the thing, though. It's crazy because there's so many people who are excited for this. This is rated as one of the hottest releasing manga right now, and I don't understand why. It must just be because you have so many fans of Family Guy. It just doesn't work for me, but it's so hard to enjoy this story because it's just surviving on one joke.
Alright, and then we've got the 100 girlfriends that really, really, really love you. How cursed is that title? How utterly cursed is that title?
This is so dumb, and yet it works. Why does it work?
That's what I want to know. It shouldn't be as meta as it is, but it somehow does it, and like it works. It's like so dumb going into this, and then it just starts working, and you're just like, who is this author? Like, how are they doing this? This is so stupid.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. The only reason why I feel like this actually works in any sort of way is because throughout it you do have an intense rivalry between all the girls.
Yeah.
It remains there. So the basic plot is that God made a mistake in setting up this one character's love life. Rather than giving him one true love, gave him 100 true loves. And if he doesn't get together with all of them, the girls that he doesn't get together with will die a horrible, tragic death. So he's got to find all 100 girls and somehow make a relationship, this ridiculously sized harem, work out. And it is so nuts and meta.
Yep. I'm still shaking my head over the one chapter where, like, he's met several of them now. I think there's, like, 5 or 6 of them by that point. And a bunch of them get exposed to some kind of, like, pheromone or love potion or something like that. That, like, makes them go absolutely insane, and it's just the point that like the main characters try to survive and get them antidotes before they become like that permanently. And I'm like, This is the dumbest thing I've ever read. Why am I here?
Why am I here? Why am I still reading?
But then the rest of the story like actually pretty fun.
Yeah, here's the thing. And again, it comes down, like, you can make a story work so long as you've got the characters to, like, really, like, back it, to, like, really, like, back it on up. One of the characters who I really enjoy is the girl who speaks through book quotes.
Oh, she's fun. I like her.
She is so precious. I'm like, you know what? If you could have a story, if you could do a rom-com where she's the main love interest, there's no harem. It's just like the miscommunications of a boy and a girl who does everything in quotes. Boom. Already right there, there's your whole complete story. That's all you need because she's freaking precious.
Right. I do like, and I've seen other harem anime, but I've almost never been all that impressed with the main character. I do like the main character in this one. He's actually kind of like a nice, actual, like, good guy.
He's a genuine good guy. Do have to give the protagonist that, and maybe that's another reason why you stick around for it. He's not doing this because he's overly horny. He's doing this because, oh, God made a mistake and now he's got to actually live with said mistake. And he does try to develop a good relationship with each girl, which is a huge pitfall to most harem stories. That the girls in the harem, like, they have their moment where they shine when they're introduced. They have nothing to do throughout the rest of the story until it's convenient to pick them up again. There are very, very few harem stories that can properly juggle all the girls, and this is a story that shockingly juggles the girls really well.
Well, what I'm concerned about is how that's gonna happen as the count keeps increasing, because, like, I've only read to the point where he's got like 5 or 6 by that point. He's still got 94 to go. How do you juggle 100 people like that?
For me, the real question is, how then later on in the story do you then not have a plot where, like, the boys in the school are all trying to murder him because they realize that half of the girl population in the school is after him?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's an arc somewhere down the line.
Like that would need to be like a constant thing throughout the story. Then it would be way more enjoyable to me. Because it happens. As someone who lived through high school and taught in high school, the moment that any guy or girl starts getting that much attention, and it's clear that there's a lot of people who are romantically interested in that person, the knives start coming out. It's not just the girls who do it, the guys do it too. We'll see how this one goes. This is going to be one that I suspect is going to be like the guilty pleasure of the season.
Very much so. This is a guilty pleasure story by far.
Oh,
all
boy.
Right. So Lars, I think you've got something special to tell everybody. Well, concerning like these anime, because we were talking about it, but let's like set it into stone.
About what?
Well, about following an anime like
through
the season. You've been talking about this for a good while now, and I'm like, we gotta set this in stone, like this episode.
Yeah, so what I intend to do is I intend to follow some of these anime. I'm going to do a dedicated video for at least one of them, and I'm looking into ways for how I can kind of like extol the virtues of or berate some of the other anime that come up, but at least have one particular video dedicated each week to a specific anime. The beginning of the season will be a little bit wobbly, and that's just because of stuff that's happening in our lives. Nathan is getting married!
Yeah.
Woohoo! So I'm going to be traveling a whole lot at the beginning of this anime season. But after that, things will definitely land with more regularity. That is the hope. That is the hope, the wish, the dream, the daring plan. I still, though, I'm not sure which one I exactly want to continue to dedicate a video to each week.
I think I'm gonna try and do one on Shangri La Frontier, just like focus on the anime specifically, and then just set it out onto the channel, just because I feel like I need to put more up on the YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah, no, we need more of your opinions and everything, and especially since you've read more of Shangri-La, I think you're way more qualified to actually like really dive into it. Man, I need to do a coin toss, either between Sousou no Frieren or Apothecary Diaries. Even though
I would love to hear your opinion on either of those. So, like, take your pick. I'm excited.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. I'm also going to be playing around with SteamYard to see about what we can do with live streams. A lot of these are anime that, like, it would be fun to do a dedicated video for, but, like, it takes a lot of time. Not only do you have to watch the episode, which you should do if you're going to review something, take note, other reviewers out there, I know what some of you are doing, but you actually got to watch the episode, And then you've got to take your time to actually like go over the good things, the bad things, what's the writing advice, the writing quality to it all. You want to try to put that into some sort of script, or at least have to have a good set of notes if you're gonna go off the cuff. And then you've got to get all of the footage. You got to edit it all together, get the audio right, and it takes hours of time to make even a simple video. So it's really about budgeting time.
Yeah.
This is where live streams can come in handy to just like shoot your ideas on out there, and also even have a dialogue with the community. So we'll see what happens. I am not making any promises here just yet about what we'll do, but I will have by the time that this video goes up, decision will be made about which anime is getting a dedicated video from me weekly that you can look forward to. And also Scott will try to do his Shangri La Frontier. He will do his Shangri La Frontier videos.
Frontier. That's part of the reason I said this at the end, because it locks me in to having to do it. Because I said I was going to do it for the video. I'm going to have to live up to this.
You can do it. It's fun. Once you get into it, that's the thing. For anyone who wants to get into doing videos on YouTube, getting started is hard. Getting into a rhythm is hard. Once you've hit that rhythm, you're in it. And then you just start going along, and it gets fun.
This has been Need for Weed, part of Camille's Harem.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. And until the next video, peace.
Okini.